Alrighty, everybody. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back here to another live. We got ourselves a bit of a severe weather situation coming up here. We're going to get into that here in just a moment. But it's good to see you guys here this evening. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you guys are having a wonderful night and a great weekend. I guess we're towards the end of a weekend now, but anyways, let's see who we got here for today. We got ourselves Roby right off the bat here saying raining off and on in southwest Missouri. A few rumbles of thunder and some wind. Gotcha. Well, hello, Roby. Hope you're doing well. What's up, Kendall? Good to see you. Saying, oh, hello, Andrew. It's quite cold here this morning. Southeast Michigan, 5 degrees. Goodness. Tell me it's going to get warm. It's going to warm up for quite a bit of people here, actually, coming up pretty soon. So definitely will be good. What's up, Joplin? Saying, hi, Andrew. How are you? I'm doing good, man. Good to see you. What's up, Haley? What's up, Kathy? Hello, Misty. Good to see you guys. Hope everyone is doing well. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right on into it. So we do have a couple of days worth of severe weather coming up here. The SPC, they already have a couple of risks here for severe weather. So whenever it comes to it, here, let me fix that. Sorry if you all heard the audio in the background. But we do actually have ourselves a couple of days worth of severe weather. So day 1, or the first day of severe weather, comes up for day 3, which this is actually going to be on Tuesday. So we actually do have ourselves a little bit of a marginal risk here for severe weather. Not really too much of a big concern here for at least, Tuesday. Little threat out here by Kansas, maybe a little bit of northern Oklahoma, but that's not the main day. We go into day 4, which would be on Wednesday, and here's where things start to get pretty interesting. So we actually do have a 15% risk here for severe weather, including portions of northern Texas, out there by the Wichita Falls, Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if you're out there, if you know anybody out there, give them a heads up, because we are going to be in for potential severe weather. And we're going to do a full model breakdown and stuff like that here in the future. So, we'll actually be getting into that here soon. Polly, thank you so much for the Tropical Storm membership for 7 months, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Kobe says anything for Alabama coming. So we'll get to that here in a minute. We're going to go through the risk here, and then we'll do like the individual personal forecasts and stuff like that. But we will get into those here in a little bit. Anyways, so we do have ourselves, that risk here for Wednesday out there by the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This also extends into Oklahoma, including areas just shy of Tulsa. I would definitely want to keep an eye on Tulsa, though, anyways, because we are really, really close to that 15% risk as of now. It does include the Paws Valley area out there by Hugo, out there by, Muskogee area. I think I'm saying that right. I could be saying it wrong. So if I'm saying it wrong, I'm not good at pronunciations with some of these names here. But anyways, it also does include portions of western Arkansas as well here. So this does include the Fayetteville area. This is west of Little Rock out there by Van Buren, Greenwood, DeQueen, and Nashville. Not Nashville, Tennessee. This is Nashville, western Arkansas. So basically western Arkansas, southeastern Oklahoma, and northern Texas will be in the risk here for Wednesday. But remember, this is only one of the days worth of severe weather. There's another day here as we work our way into Friday. Now, Friday's risk actually extends up pretty high. So not only do we have another day worth of severe weather for Friday up across northern Texas, including once again the Dallas-Fort Worth area, also including central and eastern Oklahoma here, now including the Tulsa region, Oklahoma City here for Friday. Remember, this is Friday's risk here. We also have eastern Kansas included, including the Kansas City area here, just east of Wichita here. And then we actually work our way into Missouri, including areas like Jefferson City, Joplin, Missouri, Springfield, Missouri is going to be in the risk here for, severe weather and stuff like that. So the areas in yellow, you can see these are the areas that are in a risk here for Friday. We'll go ahead and overlay Wednesday's threat once again. So this is Wednesday's threat right here. Which includes, once again, northern Texas, portions of southeastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, and then we have Friday's risk here, which includes some of those same areas, but also including a little bit areas further up north, out there by portions like eastern Kansas, as well as Missouri. So we are going to definitely need to be on the weather awareness here, because we're going to have a couple of days worth of severe weather coming up here. We have a lot of instability that's going to start working its way into the country, in which let's actually hop over to models now here. We'll bring up the GFS just to take a look at it. We're going to pull up the most unstable cape. This is, the instability in the atmosphere for thunderstorms, based off of lapse rates as well as moisture content and some other things. So we do have ourselves, a pretty good amount of fuel that really starts to build in, actually not just for really Wednesday. We actually have a little bit of fuel in place right now for, some storm potential. But, given the environment, I don't think we're actually going to be seeing a whole lot. And definitely nothing severe tonight or anything like that, so don't worry about that. But as we work our way into Wednesday, you can really see a lot of that, a lot of that advection occurs. We get a lot of instability starting to build into the region here in the southern and central plains and portions of the Midwest here. That's with Wednesday's threat for, specifically areas out there by like northern Texas and Oklahoma. Then we work our way down into Friday, and you can actually see as we approach on Friday, we have a pretty good amount of instability going actually pretty high up into the country, which is definitely going to be, quite interesting, and which a lot of people will actually probably see storms in general. We will obviously have some severe weather on Friday, but also a lot of people will likely see some storms, pretty high up north latitude. So I do want to actually bring up the dew points here, just look at the, what the dew points are for, moisture content and stuff like that. And honestly, it looks like we're going to have a pretty good amount of moisture here available. So this is, once again, on Friday. This is showing 7 p.m. on Friday. And you can see those dew points are in the 60s all the way up to portions of Iowa and Illinois, Indiana, maybe even portions of like southern Michigan could even see those dew points in the 60s. We are definitely seeing a pretty moisture-rich environment here for these storms, in which, the storms directly use a lot of the moisture from the lower levels because, the lower levels have the most moisture. And that warm air that's on the ground will rise into the cooler environment above. So we do actually have a pretty good amount of moisture available here for this in particular system. So that's one of the ingredients that you really need for, storms and just severe weather in general. So, or severe weather and storms in general, essentially. So another thing that I want to look at here, and this is actually a really important one, and this will kind of determine if we're going to have more of a tornado threat or whatnot. So I'm going to load up our lower level winds here. This is our 850 millibar winds, which this is about 4,000 feet up or so, which having strong lower level flow is very important, for tornadic activity and all. So, and, honestly, the way that it looks here, this is for Friday, by the way, the way that it looks is like we could have a pretty good amount of lower level wind shear. I'm going to grab a sounding up in northeastern Oklahoma here just to kind of get an idea of what the environment could look like here. And, the first thing I do notice here is, this is a pretty decent environment, and we have really, really strong winds throughout the atmosphere, which will help organize these storms here. We do have ourselves, overall, just a really strong amount of winds throughout the atmosphere. Good amounts of instability, great moisture supply. Mid 60 dew points, a little bit of curvature on our hodograph, indicating that veering profile. Basically, that the winds are changing directions, in the lower atmosphere with altitude. So basically, the higher you go up, the more the wind direction changes. The stronger the wind speeds do get to a certain degree in the sounding. Which, this could possibly be a bit of a tornado concern here overall. So, anyways, Stormy says, could northern Wisconsin see any severe weather or only just rain? So Wisconsin, that's pretty high up north. It doesn't seem like, at least from the GFS, that we get a lot of that moisture advection that high up north. I wouldn't think so. You're just a little bit too high up north, I think, for any severe weather or anything. Now, this could actually be bringing, a lot of storms for quite a bit of people here. It's not just the areas that we actually just showed. We'll pull back up here, from the SPC. It's not just these areas here that could see some, overall storm activity here. So, we actually could be dealing with here. Let's see if I can't pull up our day. Let's see here, our day 6. Yeah, there you go. So that's for Friday. So, it's not just these regions that are going to see storms. This is where the severe thunderstorm activity is likely to be. We actually could see some storm activity up as high north as, portions of the Great Lakes region, maybe the Ohio Valley. Pretty decent amount of, I think, storm potential will be associated here with this system. Like I mentioned, we have great dew points, good moisture content on the surface. We talked about the winds here. We do have some pretty strong lower level winds, so that's a really good component there as well. And then, of course, we have the instability, which we kind of looked at here just a little bit. But I'll bring it back up here. If we pull up the instability, we do have a lot of unstable air, through a lot of the South, a lot of the Midwest here, and portions of the, the Ohio Valley, which, could definitely allow for some storm activity to occur. We're going to be having, a couple of days worth of storms out of this system. The first day of severity, like we mentioned, is actually on Tuesday. I'm going to go ahead and remove everything here once again. But if we look at the SPC for Tuesday, once again, we do have a little bit of a threat here for portions of Kansas, for Topeka area, for Wichita, Kansas. So, a little bit of a shot out there for, for some severe weather and stuff. In which, as of right now, the SPC does not have that direct breakdown here for the tornado, large hail damaging wind threat. When that becomes more available, I'll let you know. As actually tomorrow, we should be able to know that exact probability. But anyway, so that's for Tuesday. Like I said, then we go into Wednesday. The risk exists here for areas of eastern Oklahoma, including the, the Muskogee area out there by Ada, I think it is, Hugo, Pauls Valley. Then we have like western Arkansas, including some areas out there by like Fort Smith, Fayetteville, DeQueen, Nashville. And then, of course, we have portions of northern Texas by the Dallas-Fort Worth area, of course. Wichita Falls also included here for Wednesday's severe weather threat. Now, as we go into Thursday, as of right now, the Storm Prediction Center does not have any risk for Thursday. We're going to hold off and wait and see what happens because, there's going to be a pretty good amount of instability still available, from the models that we were actually looking at, which we'll go ahead and bring that up here now. Let's bring up our instability again here so we can kind of look. So, as we work our way over here into Thursday, we are going to have, still a decent amount of instability here. You can see this is for 7 p.m. on Thursday. A lot of like Texas and Oklahoma is still showing a pretty good amount of instability. I'm going to grab another sounding here, which, it seems like we do have maybe a little bit of a capping inversion here. Also, there is a pretty big dew point depression on the surface, which, if storms were to occur in this environment, could enhance maybe some damaging winds and stuff like that, which we'll have to see. But there is a little bit of veering here. I'm a little bit concerned about those lower level thermodynamics. But anyways, but yeah, still storms could exist, even into Thursday, which I am going to keep an eye on. And obviously, if the SPC does put out a risk, we'll definitely keep you guys, up to date with that as well. We'll let you know. But anyways, as of right now, yeah, the big day goes into Friday. So that's Thursday. Then we go into Friday, and that's once again when the SPC does pick back up that that risk area here. Once again for portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri here for Friday. So definitely need you guys to be on weather alert mode. We'll definitely keep you guys up to date. We'll be doing some coverage and stuff like this, I'm sure, with this system. So just stay tuned for that. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. That way you guys can stay up to date with the information, and we'll keep you guys posted on everything, and we'll be helping you guys out a lot. Anyways, let's see. Aren't they starting the new intensity things at Tuesday for SPC outlooks? I was wondering when they're going to do that, but I did hear about it, that they're going to be implementing a new system soon, which is going to be very interesting. Anyways, what's up, MD? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. What's up, Queen? Hope you're doing good. But anyways, guys, well, if y'all have any zip codes or anything like that you want me to look at, I'll just let you know if you're in the risk here for severe weather. If you don't know how this works, just throw it on your zip code. I'll look at it. I'll let you guys know if you're in the risk here for severe weather or not, in which we'll, like I said, we'll be here to help, throughout the event. We'll be able to, just kind of show you guys where the risk areas are, where we need to look out for the severe weather. And of course, during the event, we'll show you guys what's going on at the real time. But anyways, yeah, let's bring up our risk here once again. So we have the day 3 risk here, for Kansas and Oklahoma. And then of course, like we mentioned, then we go into, day 4 here, which we have, that risk out there for northern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas. Then, of course, day 5, nothing. Day 6, another risk here. Anyways, all right, Ponderosa, I got you. Let's see what we got going on here for you. So, yeah, you're not in the risk here. You are going to be good. As of right now, the SPC doesn't have anything out there. It's a little too early to tell. Master's Word, yes, you are in the risk here. You're in the 15% risk here for severe weather. So this is just a collective risk for severe weather. Hasn't really been determined yet for damaging winds, large hail, or tornadoes. So given the models, and actually I do want to hop back to the models for a moment to kind of look at the environment here. So this is for Friday's risk out here. So the way that it looks, as we approach into Friday, out there by your region, you're out here in Missouri. So if I was to grab a sounding out here, one thing I do notice is that in this particular sounding, there's a bit of a capping inversion, a little warm layer in the lower atmosphere, which could hurt convection. It could, stop convection. But if, say, storms were able to fire through that, there is a decent environment here in which I do see potential for tornadic activity. We have some lower level veering here in our wind profile, telling us that the wind speeds are changing with altitude, wind directions changing, that veering. So the winds are going from the north, from the south to the north. And then a little bit up in the atmosphere, they change directions from pretty much southwest to northeast. And that actually creates a bit of spin, in which we could see some potential rotating storms. Even the hodograph kind of confirms that with that little arch here. So we can't rule that out. So we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop here. I think that, tornadoes will be possible. We'll have to see maybe some gusty winds as well included. But, we'll let you know. We'll obviously have more information the closer we do get to the event because, we are a little ways away out here. And, this is still, about 5 days out or so. So things could still change a little bit. All right, let's see here. Roby says, thanks for the updates. Let's see, happy rain, but definitely could do without tornadoes. Let's see. Let me pull you up, Roby. Let's see what we got going on for you. I don't think you're going to be in the risk here. Actually, sorry, I was looking at the wrong zip code here. You are in the risk here. You're actually in that 15% area. So, Roby, you should definitely keep an eye out there for Friday. So the other day we were talking about here is Wednesday. Wednesday we actually have another day worth of severe weather. So this is not just one day. This is multiple days, worth of severe weather here. So this one's for Wednesday for portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. And then, of course, like I said, we have the threat here for Friday, which includes a lot of the same areas, but it also includes areas a little bit further north, more areas like Missouri, Kansas, and stuff like that. So anyways, but yeah, you are in the risk here overall. Molly says, wait, I missed it. So is Dallas going to have a tornado outbreak any of those days? So outbreak is a pretty strong word. We'll have to see how the event materializes. But Dallas-Fort Worth area has 2 days worth of severe concern as of now, Wednesday and Friday. Here for Wednesday, this is Wednesday's threat. This is the time that we have here is for Wednesday. The threat that you see here from SPC, this is for Friday. But yeah, so the environment here for Wednesday from the GFS does show a potential, a potential environment where we could see some strong to severe storm activity. Probably some gusty winds. The winds seem to be pretty weak, though. The lower level kinematics. If we did get tornadoes, they would likely be weak in this environment, particularly for Wednesday. Remember, this is also one model, one sounding I just randomly picked here. So then we go into Friday. I think Friday would probably be the better of the days. So let's actually go into Friday afternoon. So this is this is Friday evening. We'll go ahead and grab another sounding out here. So, for this particular day, I think tornadoes would be a little bit greater of a concern. Like I said, I'm a little bit iffy on the models. I really want to wait and see like what the short range models like the HRRR and stuff like that really have to show for us. But I mean, yes, there definitely could be some storm activity within this particular sounding. There is a couple of things here like the capping inversion. There could be a little bit of a cap in place, which we'll have to see, but overall, I mean, storms should be able to fire, in this environment. And SPC thinks so as well because they have the risk there. So I think Friday would be the better day overall, personally. Let's see. Dixie, thank you so much for the $10, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Dixie. You did not have to do that. I really, really appreciate it. But thank you so, so much. Greatly appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna try my hardest to get to everybody here. So don't be surprised if it goes a few minutes without me answering your all zip codes. I'm trying to get to everybody. There's a lot of people here tonight, so I'll be more than happy to help you. Just give me a moment. Anyway, so let's move on here. I'm gonna scroll down just a little bit under Dixie's. I'm sorry if I accidentally skipped anybody. If I did, just put it back in the chat here, but just don't spam. Anyways, let me see here. Dixie, thank you once again. Greatly appreciated. Actually, all right, Misty, I got you here. Let's go ahead and pull up Misty's zip code here. So let's bring y'all back over here. But yeah, I think Friday is going to have good potential because the way that the models have it is it has a pretty good amount of wind shear. Some really strong winds, especially in the lower atmosphere, which could help with tornadic activity and such. I think damaging winds, tornadoes will be a concern. We'll have to see about hail and stuff, but I think the damaging winds and the tornadic activity were probably the main concerns out of this event here. But for you, Misty, you are actually just right on the outside of this risk here for Friday. However, you are within region where I would still keep a close eye on it because you're still, it could take a single update for you to be included in this area. And also, when looking at the models and such, here for Friday, there is going to be some unstable air in the area. There is going to be an unstable environment in which, we could have some storms definitely, popping off out here. Here's the sounding from the American GFS. Now, this does show a little bit of a capping inversion. Honestly, could be a little tricky for some storms to fire off in the environment, but once again, like I said, once we really start to get the short range models like the RRFS, like the HRRR, stuff like that, then we'll have a little bit more of a better idea. These global models like the GFS Euro, for looking at the extended range, which we are right now, it can be a little iffy. When looking at the Cape values, the instability and stuff. Basically, the closer we get to the event, the more fine-tuned the models will be. We'll have a lot more information and stuff like that. So, anyways, let's see here. Let's see, I meant Saturday for zip code. See, my bad. How are storms looking in the models? Yeah, I got you. Let's go ahead and pull it up here. So you are in. So Indiana's not included in the risk here from the SPC as of now. So these areas in Indiana are not currently in the risk area. Right now, the risk areas include Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. We'll have to see about, in the future for, other areas being included. But as of right now, those are the states that are currently involved here. But with that being said, though, there is going to be some instability, stretching through portions of the Ohio Valley. This is for Saturday. This is, late Friday going into Saturday. There's going to be some instability involved. A lot of the models were kind of showing a bit of a capping inversion, which for this particular sounding, there's really not too much of a cap here. But, storms in theory could fire off in this environment overall. So this would be for Friday, the evening of Friday. So, some of these other areas in the Ohio Valley could see some storms. It's just not severe, not expected to be severe as of the information we have right now. But we'll have to see. We'll keep an eye on it. But yeah, you could see some storm activity. It's going to warm up quite a bit for for a lot of you guys, which I know it's going to be pretty nice. Temperatures here, up into Michigan, according to GFS, could get up in the 60s, which, during the event here, we're going to have a lot of northerly air advection. So basically a lot of warm and moisture-filled air is really kind of driving its way into the country. This is increasing overall moisture content, allowing for, just more heat to build into the environment here. And, if we do get storms firing off, this warm, moisture-filled air on the lower atmosphere will rise into the cooler, drier atmosphere above. So, the ingredients are going to be here. The moisture supply is really good for this particular setup. And like I mentioned, especially for Friday, the way that it looks is that we are going to be having a pretty decent amount of strong lower-level wind shear, which is going to be good for severe weather and stuff like that. So anyways, Let's see here. Misty says, thank you, Andrew. You're very welcome. What's up, Max? Good to see ya. What's up, Jackson? Sorry if I accidentally go over y'all's comments. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to go over anybody. It's just hard for me to keep up with everything. But anyways, what's up, K-Dog? Good to see you. Saying, what do I think about Wisconsin and Illinois border, specifically on Friday? So, these areas do not have any risks as of right now from the SPC. However, I will mention that there could be some instability involved here. Looking at the most unstable Cape here, this is the instability in the atmosphere. There could be some fuel for potential storms. I mean, great moisture even working its way up into these regions here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a sounding from the GFS on Friday evening. For this particular sounding, actually, the dew points are in the mid-50s, which is in some cases enough. But for this particular case here, there is a bit of a cap. Honestly, I really don't think that there would be too much of heavy storm activity in this particular environment here. For you're pretty high up north. I think there could be some potential storms. Like I said, it's still a little fuzzy given we're in the long range here, but as we do get closer, we'll have more and more information. I wouldn't think that as of right, from what we see right now, I don't think we're going to have anything particularly like severe. And SPC does not have you in that particular risk here for now, but we'll just watch it. We'll see what happens. We'll just see how the models play out and stuff like that. So. Anyways, let's see. Roby says, good job, Andrew. Tried to help, but you're on top of it. Well, I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, Michael, I got you, my friend. Let me go ahead and pull up your zip code. I'll let you know if you're in the risk or not for the severe weather. So you are in Colorado. So, yeah, you're not going to be included in any of the severe weather. The moisture advection is mostly going to be east of you. So, a lot of the moisture will remain east for the most part. Yeah, you're not going to have any concern for any severe weather or anything. Anyways, let's see here. Max says, what's Tennessee going to get to keep showing rain for 1 hour, then sun the rest of the day each day? Each day it shows rain. So we're not expecting anything severe for Tennessee particularly. But, once again, there is going to be some days here, particularly on Friday, you can see for, Friday afternoon, we do have pretty good amounts of instability, still in place for portions of Tennessee. I'm going to grab a sounding up by Nashville here for 4 p.m. on Friday. Now, given the, the thermodynamics here, we have a good amount of instability, good amount of Cape here. Our winds are a little weak, so organized severe weather would be unlikely. But given Friday's risk here, or Friday's event here, we could see maybe even some storms out for Tennessee area. Just given this particular sounding, I do see, some storms possibly being in the area. So we'll definitely have to look out for that. But as of right now, nothing severe for those areas. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys once again, just so that everybody's on the same page here, of where the SPC currently does have the risks at. So we're actually going to start off here with Tuesday, because that's actually where everything starts. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. So for Tuesday, we actually do have a little level 1 threat for severe weather. Nothing particularly crazy or anything like that. So when it comes to Kansas, we do have a little bit of a threat for Tuesday, including the Topeka and Wichita, Kansas area. A little bit of extreme northern Oklahoma will be involved in potential, little amounts of severe weather. It is, like I said, a level 1 marginal risk here, which is a pretty low-end severe weather threat, but at the end of the day, it still is a potential threat for severe weather. But yeah, Tuesday is not going to be the big day. Then we go into Wednesday. Now, this is where things start to pick up quite a bit here. This is where the the Storm Prediction Center does have that 15% risk here for severe weather, which includes northern Texas, including the Abilene, Wichita Falls, Dallas-Fort Worth area here, and pretty close to Texarkana too as well. So these areas will be involved here for Wednesday. Then we have southeastern Oklahoma included, including like we mentioned the Pauls Valley area out there by like Hugo, Muskogee area. We're in the risk here for Wednesday as well, and of course western portions of Arkansas, just shy west of Little Rock, including the areas like Fayetteville, Nashville, DeQueen, Greenwood, Fort Smith. Those areas will be in the risk here for Wednesday. So then we go into Friday. So you can kind of see here, it's multiple days worth of severe weather potential. But let's load up our risk here for Friday. Now, Friday is likely going to be the bigger of the days, because like we mentioned, we have stronger wind shear, we have a good amount of moisture, with those dew points being well in the 60s and stuff. So from the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, they are highlighting these areas here for severe weather potential for Friday, which once again does include some of the same areas as Wednesday. Areas like Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Wichita Falls, those areas are in the risk here for Friday. Then we go into like central eastern Oklahoma. OKC is actually included. Tulsa, Lawton, Oklahoma is in the risk here. Northwestern Arkansas out there by Bentonville. Sorry about that. I don't know how I said that. I don't know where I got that from. Bentonville area. Then we go into like eastern Kansas, including some of the Kansas City area for Missouri and Kansas, just shy east of Wichita as of right now for Friday. And then you can see a lot of Missouri also in the risk here for Friday's severe weather threat. The Jefferson City area, Columbia, Clinton, St. Louis as of now is not in the risk, but St. Louis could very well likely be possibly included in at least a low-end severe weather threat here when we come to Friday. Because, you got to remember, this yellow here, this 15% risk is actually equivalent to a slight risk for severe weather. So just keep that in mind. So this is actually already kind of like a slight risk here for severe weather. It's equivalent, which is a 15% chance probability in this case, for any type of severe weather as of now. At the current moment, given that this is extended range forecasting, extended range outlooks here, they don't have the exact probability for, say, tornado probability, damaging wind, or hail. That right now is, at the current moment, still not yet available. That'll be actually available the day before an event happens. So the day before Wednesday, so Tuesday, as well as the next event, it would be on Thursday. So yeah, only day 1 and 2 actually have the breakdown for tornadoes, wind, and hail. So for example, like we would only know that for today or tomorrow, which, as of now, we don't have any threats for today or tomorrow. But like I said, day 1 and day 2, which would be today and tomorrow, that's when we only have that available. Anyways, let me hop over here. Let's see. Alex says, I saw Cape in Jersey, Andrew. Is there a chance of thunderstorms Saturday? Let me pull up the instability again. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, with this system in general, before we look at that, the moisture content is going to be pretty good, and a lot of people are going to get some pretty decent moisture from this system. We have a lot of that northerly advection. Like I said, a lot of warm air coming up from the Gulf here. This is going to be supplying a good amount of moisture for a lot of places, which could allow for some severe weather in, of course, some of the areas we talked about. Anyways, before New Jersey, I mean, that's pretty high up north. Honestly, models don't really show a whole lot reaching out there. Remember, this is also one model too. It's good to take it with a grain of salt. It's not good to fully trust the model for what it exactly represents here. Because models, they have problems. They're not perfect, but as of now, it doesn't look like we're going to really see much of anything out there. I mean, yeah, you might see a little area of Cape here, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be involved in a lot of severe weather or anything like that. No, so I don't think so. I think you're too far to the east here. Anyways, let's see here. Boxer wants me to look at the zip code, saying it looks like it's possible. Well, let me see, and we'll look and see if you're under the risk and stuff. So you're actually in Oklahoma. So yeah, Boxer, you're actually under the 15% risk here for Friday. So this upcoming Friday, we need to be weather aware. Now for the Wednesday threat, I need to pull up your zip code again. I kind of lost there, but you are actually in the risk here for Wednesday as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for both Wednesday and Friday for potential severe weather, because once again, the Storm Prediction Center does actively have you in that risk here. So be careful. We'll definitely keep you more updated as new information and stuff comes out. Anyways, let's see here. So excited for thunderstorms in New Jersey. I'm ready for them here in Florida. We've had a few glimpses of a couple of storms here within the last couple of weeks. It's been nice, but I'm ready for storm season though. I'm not ready for tornadoes, but I'm ready for like thunder, just normal thunderstorms. I'm ready for. Anyways, let's see. Let me go ahead and get to some of these questions here for you guys here. Like I said, if y'all have any questions, feel free to let us know. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Let's see here. Michael says, when I asked about zip code, I apologize. I meant there's a risk for blizzard conditions, not severe storms. Sorry about that. Hey, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we're just mostly focusing on this severe weather event anyways, but you're good. What's up, John, man? Good to see you. Hope you are doing well. It is good to see you. But yeah, we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop with everything. Just remember, just keep this in the back of your head. Wednesday, Friday, as of now, are the big days for severe weather. It seems to me Friday is going to be the bigger day. Not only is the risk bigger for Friday, but also, just the setup in general is going to be better for Friday. We have a really good amount of instability. If we actually fast forward to Friday here, we have a pretty good amount of instability in the atmosphere. Good amounts of CAPE, which is, basically the just showing you that we have a pretty unstable environment here. One of the big ones is, like we mentioned, the dew point here. With our dew point temperature being in the 60s, that tells us that we have a good amount of moisture content, total moisture content, which, a lot of people get this mixed up. A lot of people think humidity has to do with directly correlate with the moisture content. That's not true. Essentially, the higher your dew point is, the more total moisture there is. And so, humidity is just how close the atmosphere is to becoming fully saturated, eventually condensing and stuff. Because you can have 100% humidity at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, really any temperature, and they feel totally different for, say 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 100% humidity. It doesn't feel muggy versus say like 80, 90 degrees. 90 would be wild, but 80 degree temperature with 100% humidity would be just unbearable. Big difference. But anyways, I'm getting a little off the rails here. But yeah, so dew points in the 60s is great because it supplies a lot of moisture to these storms, which is really going to be good, for just, not just the severe storms, but just storms in general, which, as you can see, our dew points are in the 60s all throughout the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, portions of the, central lower plains, the Southeast. There's a lot of moisture to play here. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And like I mentioned, if we look at the instability now, if we overlay that on top, you can see that, a lot of those areas with good moisture also has instability, which could lead to potential storms. Now, like I mentioned, the severe risk areas we already went over. We already talked about those. That's mostly for areas of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. That's as of right now where the SPC thinks we could see severe weather, which, that's where we have the strongest winds, wind shear, just winds throughout the atmosphere, different, speeds and directions. But the instability exists other places too. So there could be some storms for some other areas here. Out by the Ohio Valley, I wouldn't doubt us seeing some storms and stuff like that out there as well. Anyways. John says, let's see, what's the severe weather for Georgia? So, as of now, Georgia does not have anything for anything severe, with severe thunderstorms and such. But, like I mentioned, there is actually some instability. This is for Friday afternoon, going into Friday evening here on the models, the GFS. If I was to grab a sounding in Georgia, we have enough instability, in theory for some storms. A couple of things I'm noticing is that our lower levels are pretty dry. In some cases, I also noticed that that's going to be one of the most weakest wind shear columns I think I have ever seen. that is ridiculous. Sorry. Any storm that would try to fire off in this environment would collapse on itself because there's no wind shear that's separating your storm updraft from your storm downdraft. That would literally just kill the storm out. You might have a few pop-up storms. This could go for a lot of people. You need a lot of strong winds throughout the atmosphere to keep storms organized. Without strong winds throughout the atmosphere, it crumbles on itself. And that was a perfect example there. I don't think I've really ever seen it sounding that low of wind shear in my life. And that says a lot because I've been doing this for a long time. Anyways, Cole says, or sorry, not Cole. Cool Guy says, do I think that Indiana could get a warning for Friday/Saturday? So, like I mentioned, Indiana is not currently in the risk for severe weather. Now, given the models, I'm going to grab a quick little sounding for Southern Indiana for 4 p.m. on Friday. Given this particular environment, yeah, there could, in theory, be a couple strong to potentially severe storms, but as of right now, the important thing to note is that the official forecast from the Storm Prediction Center does not have you in the risk as of now. Could that change? Maybe. We'll have to see. I'm going to need a little bit more guidance with the models first because, we are still talking the extended range. We're still talking several days out. Once this becomes like, at least or at most, 3 days out or so, we'll at least have maybe some short mid-range model support. Especially from models like the RRFS and stuff like that, which can give us a little bit more details. Because global models, if you haven't noticed already, are very low res. And basically, they're really low res for the long range models. The short range models are more in depth. They're higher resolution and stuff like that. And the closer we get to the event, the more high resolution data we're going to have. And that's going to tell us a lot about what's going to happen with the environment here. The long range gives you a good idea of what we could see. And, based off what we know, yes, there will likely be, some severe weather, especially on Wednesday and Friday, like we mentioned. But yeah, really, when we get close with those short range models, we'll have a lot more of a fine detail of what we could see. Anyways. Let's see here. So Haley, yeah, you're actually in the risk here for Friday. The Storm Prediction Center for, the Kansas City area does have the risk here. So if we actually go into Friday's risk, you can see that Kansas City is included, for potential severe weather. So, 15% chances there. Definitely need to keep an eye out there for the Kansas City region. Now, given the event, what would I think that the main threat would be? I'm going to grab a sounding, once again, also 4 p.m. on Friday, just to kind of get an idea of, what the atmosphere could look like here. For this particular sounding, I don't see anything screaming tornadoes. We have a lot of speed shear, so a lot of the winds are flowing in the same direction. They do vary in wind speed. As you go up higher in the atmosphere, the winds increase. But they're mostly flowing in the same direction. There's not much veering profile going on here. But the environment does look like, we could have some storms, of course. SPC obviously agrees. Great moisture content, good amounts of instability. Yeah, it looks like a storm environment here. But we're gonna have to see. Like I said, I really want to. It's not like a broken record at this point, but I do really want to see those short range models before we really make like sharp assumptions and stuff like that. Long range models they're only so good. Cool Guy says, so wait, Wednesday or Thursday for better information. Yeah, by then we'll have a lot better of an idea of what the main threat will be for one, but also, a better idea of who all will be involved here. Because to be honest, between now and Friday, that's 5 days out. There's a good chance that a lot of people will either be added to the risk, or some people could even be removed from the risk. We don't know right now. But, based off the guidance that we have now, the areas that are currently in the risk here is, where we do need to be looking out for. So, we'll definitely watch out for it. And like I mentioned, for Friday, I think Friday is going to have better potential. because we'll hop back to models here actually. Because of the winds, like I was saying, we have a lot stronger wind shear available. If we pull up the lower level winds once again, we do have a pretty good amount of lower level winds, throughout portions of the plains going into the Midwest here. The models, the GFS here, kind of suggesting about 40 knots of lower level shear at 850 millibar height, which is about 4,000 feet or so, which isn't super high up, but it's fairly shallow in relation to the entire atmosphere here. But yeah, having those strong winds is very important, not just for tornadic activity, but also for, just organizing severe weather in general. It's very important. And I do want to bring up our mid-level winds here. But first, before I do that, I do want to draw something on the screen here. So here's our lower level winds. Remember, this is about 4,000 feet up. Winds are flowing to the northeast, right, in that direction. So if I go up in altitude, actually, let's go to about 700 millibar wind speed. So this is a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. You notice how the winds, they do change direction a little bit. So that's showing us that we have a little bit of a veering profile, telling us that the winds are changing direction as we go up in altitude, which, like I said, it's very important, for tornadic activity and stuff. That could create some spin, out of some storms that could develop and such. So, it's very important that we do have this veering profile here, for for these setups and stuff. So I do think tornadoes could be a bit of a concern here for, for Friday. So anyways, Dixie says good night. Good night, Dixie. Thanks for joining. But anyways, guys, if y'all have any questions or anything like that, feel free to let me know. I do want to bring up the RRFS model for a minute because I think, let's see, I think that we have Wednesday's event actually already available for us. Here, let's bring back up our day 4 risk here. So this is Wednesday. Actually, I keep accidentally drawing on the screen here. Anyway, so this is Wednesday's threat. And we do actually have a run of the RRFS model, which is a high-res model. So let's kind of get an idea of what the event could look like here. Just kind of early short-range model data here. So this is for Wednesday evening. Honestly, it doesn't show a whole lot of storms firing off here, but it does show quite a few kind of discrete storms here, which is interesting. It does show kind of a few out by like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Here, let's grab a sounding. So this is for Wednesday evening once again. So this particular environment, so when comparing Wednesday to Friday, one of the biggest changes is going to be how strong the winds are throughout the atmosphere, not just on the ground, but also from lower levels to upper levels. The winds are a lot weaker on Wednesday, which is going to not allow the storms to be as organized or as strong, because of that. Now, for this particular sounding, what it says to me is that we could have some damaging wind gusts, perhaps. Maybe an isolated tornado or two. But in this kind of case here, I think that, damaging winds could be kind of one of the main threats here overall. So we'll definitely look out for that. But, then like we mentioned, if we go back to the GFS here, and we kind of look at, what the model showed for, really Friday, at that point, we're going to have a lot stronger wind shear and stuff like that. You can kind of see kind of a line of storms that potentially could pop off for, pretty much Friday, which could possibly even lead into Saturday. We'll have to see. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely is quite a decent little environment. So, like we mentioned, we're going to kind of go over this again here. So, for thunderstorms and severe weather in general, there's really 4 main ingredients you need. You need moisture, you need lift. We'll get to that in a minute. Moisture, lift, instability, and wind shear. So the moisture we measure in the dew point, like we mentioned, moisture levels or dew points in the 60s is really good for severe weather because, the higher the dew point, the more total moisture there is, in this case, in the lower atmosphere. So basically, a lot of the fuel comes from near the ground level for storms, which, whenever we do get storm activity that fires off, a lot of the warmer, air on the surface will eventually get lifted up into the atmosphere. And because, the higher you go up, the cooler it gets. I'm trying not to get too much involved in this here, but basically just simply you got to know that the dew points in the 60s is good for for severe weather and stuff like that. It just storms really in general. But yeah, I mean, these dew points in the 60s go all the way up towards the Ohio Valley, lots of the Midwest, obviously, the Southeast. I mean, check off moisture because we have a good amount of moisture here, so that's very, very important. Now, like I said as well, the next thing is wind shear, having really strong winds throughout the atmosphere. Here going into Friday, you can kind of see we're going to have a pretty strong lower level jet, which is really going to kind of help, with these storms, really kind of get them organized, really allow for potential severe weather, of course, tornadoes potentially, damaging winds, stuff like that. Really, really strong lower level winds is pretty concerning. And of course, we do have our mid-level winds here too, which is even stronger. But yeah, it's to be expected. The higher you go up in altitude, the winds do increase a bit. But anyway, so yeah, we have the wind shear, we have the moisture. So those are two of the main ingredients for for severe weather, and a very important one also is the instability. Looking at the cape here, this is our mixed layer cape. You can see that these areas here in the bluish color and the yellow, that shows you where we have a bit of an unstable environment, where we do have a pretty good amount of instability in place. Once again, this is 4 p.m. on Friday, really highlighting some of the heaviest amounts of instability, being over areas like Texas and, and really where that risk is. But one of the things I want to mention to you guys is, once again, you could see that we also have instability for a lot of the other portions of the eastern country. A lot of the southeast here, there is instability, through the southeast. Even into the Ohio Valley, portions of the lower Ohio Valley here for Friday. So, we could even see some storms out here. It's not as much of a hotspot zone as, say, the areas that we circled here, where there's more instability, stronger wind shear, stuff like that. The best area where they all mix together is where that severe weather risk is. That's where you're going to have the greatest potential and stuff. But yeah, there is a good amount of instability here as well. So we have good wind shear, we have good instability, we have good moisture. And the next thing is a lift, in order to get that warm air from the surface up into the environment to get storms kicking off. It's very important, because that way, that's basically how storms start. You need lift. And if we play this in motion, it kind of looks like we're going to be having a little bit of a frontal interaction. So that's going to kind of force the air from the surface to go up into the cooler environment above. I'm going to keep this quick and simple. Warmer air holds more moisture than colder air. And, whenever you have warm air that's rising into a colder environment, the air cools down. And the air can't hold that moisture anymore, so it reaches saturation, 100% humidity. It condenses into water droplets that form clouds. So it's the moisture can't go anywhere, and which is important. And that's one of the main things with these storms here. But bottom line, like I said, everything's in place. We do have good amount of instability, good amount of wind shear, good amount of moisture, and enough lift to achieve severe weather for not just Wednesday, but also Friday. Now, Wednesday's threat, I think, is mostly going to be a damaging wind threat day. Friday's threat, I think, is going to be more of a tornado and damaging wind threat day. I think that, the greatest tornado probability would be for Friday. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Anyways, What's up, James? Saying, hi, Andrew. When is this happening? So we have a couple of days worth of severe weather. So if we hop over here, matter of fact, we actually do have a risk here for Tuesday as well. We actually mentioned this earlier. The Storm Prediction Center, we do have a level 1 threat for severe weather for Kansas and a little bit of northern Oklahoma here for Tuesday. Nothing big, a couple strong to potentially severe storms possible. But yeah, the big stuff is popping off here for Wednesday. So Wednesday we have northern Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, including areas like Abilene, Wichita Falls, southeastern Oklahoma, including areas like just shy south of Tulsa, including regions like Paws Valley, Hugo, some of those regions. Then we have like western Arkansas, including areas like Fort Smith involved here as well. Russellville area. So, these areas are for Wednesday. So, like I mentioned, multiple days. And then we go into Friday, which Friday includes a lot of the same areas here, which you can see, like northern Texas, bits of Oklahoma, Arkansas, but it also now includes, for between Wednesday and Friday, Friday's threat includes more areas like Missouri and eastern Kansas here. So, anyways, Kyle, oh my gosh, dude. Thank you so much, man, for the $20 super chat. That is so nice of you, dude. Kyle, seriously, thank you so much for that. Saying, love the live streams. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad you do. Like I said, you will not know how much that means to me. Kyle, thank you so much, dude, for the 20. You absolutely rock, dude. If you guys could, please give Kyle a big thank you in chat, because the donators really help make this possible. Help keep us up to date with, or help keep us funded. So I really appreciate it, Kyle. Thank you once again, dude, for the 20. That's greatly appreciated. You did not have to do that. Anyways, what's up, Soen? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, Kyle, thank you once again, dude. I really appreciate it. So, like I said, Friday, I think is going to be the bigger day. We'll have to see. Remember, this is also 5 days out for Friday. We're 3 days out for Wednesday's threat. We're 5 days out for Friday's threat. So, we definitely do have, for at least Friday's threat, we definitely do have a lot of days before we get to the event, which, some things obviously in the forecast will likely change by then. So, anyways, Jordan says, where do I think we could see tornadoes on Friday? So I think a lot of the risk area here for Friday would be involved in the tornado threat. And the reason why, to back my claim here, would be because of the fact that we have strong wind shear, specifically a really strong lower level winds here. You can see that lower level jet that's presented here by the GFS here, showing our lower level winds of about 40 to 50 knots, which that's pretty strong, for lower level winds. The main thing is the veering profile, and basically the change in wind direction with altitude, in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Because as we go up in altitude, the wind direction changes, could create what we call, that the veering wind shear. Just the change in wind direction, increase in wind speed as you go up in altitude, specifically on the lower levels, because, tornadoes are pretty much surface and lower level based in, phenomenons. But yeah, the strong winds really will contribute to that at the, the lower levels. Very, very, important here. Another thing is obviously the moisture content that we have, like we talked about. Our dew points are going to be well in the 60s. Maybe even the mid 60s in some areas possibly. So moisture. We're going to have a pretty good amount of moisture. Pretty good amount of strong winds throughout the atmosphere. Stuff like that really is going to contribute to, the environment to potentially be tornadic for, a lot of the risk area here, in which I think Friday is going to have, for most of the risk area here is going to be in that tornado threat here. What's really making it is the strong wind shear, and the, the instability and the moisture. I mean, it just really all kind of comes together here. So, anyways, let's see here. As of now, Samuel, Mississippi and Louisiana is not included in the risk here. So, Kyle says, blessings, keep up the great work. Thank you once again, Kyle. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. But guys, if y'all have any zip code forecasts or anything like that that you want me to look at, I'll be more than happy to. Like I said, I'm actually happy to stick around here for a little bit longer with you guys. If y'all want me to, just kind of take a look at specific zip code forecasts or anything like that. So if you don't know how it works, just throw down your zip code in the chat. I'll take the zip code, I'll plug it in, and I'll look at the general area on the models and the SPC outlooks and stuff like that, and I'll let you know if you're going to be in a risk here, for severe weather and stuff, which, like I said, the main areas as of now is Texas, or portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, for really Wednesday. Then Friday, we have another risk here for portions of northern Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas. But in addition to that, for Friday, Kansas and Missouri included too. Remember, these risks will likely expand in some forms of ways. Now, which ways, we don't know. This is good for now. We're going to be actively getting more and more model data. We're going to have a lot more information on the system, especially as we get closer to the event, because, we'll have a lot more high resolution data for one. We'll have just a lot more consistency in the models, a lot more, hopefully more agreement and stuff like that too. But anyways, you're welcome, Samuel. No problem. Teresa has a zip code. I got you, my friend. Let's see what you are dealing with. So you are actively in the threat here for severe weather. So this is actually Friday's risk here. You're also going to be in the risk for Wednesday. So you don't just have one day of potential severe weather. You actually have two. Wednesday being the first day, then you have Friday. So Wednesday, Friday, just keep that in the back of your head just to be weather aware. Keep an eye on the weather. I think out of the 2 days, I think Friday's potential is greater. Both days has a good amount of instability, good unstable environment. But Friday's event has more winds, like I said, more wind shear, which is going to help organize these storms into even stronger storms here. The wind shear is very important, and Friday has more of that. So I think Friday is going to be a little bit more of a concern overall. Anyways, Jacob says you live in Dover, Arkansas. I do know portions of Arkansas is included here. Let's pull up Dover, Arkansas. Yeah, so Dover, that's crazy. Dover's right on the outskirts here. But even I would definitely keep an eye out there for potential severe weather. Obviously you're right on the border. So there is a really good shot that maybe even the next update could include you inside of the risk area. You're right on the outside. And, like I was mentioning a little bit ago, is that the risk that's here, that 15% risk does equal to a slight risk, a level 2 threat for severe weather. So as you guys probably know, if you don't know, there's a severe weather scale. It goes from 1 to 5. Level 1 is a marginal risk, level 2 slight risk, level 3 enhanced, level 4 moderate, level 5 high. The scale goes from 1 to 5. The higher the number, the more likely severe weather is, for one, but also the potential storms could be stronger, the higher the level you are. So the level's based off of probability of seeing severe weather as well as severity of severe weather. And the 15% risk is equivalent to a level 2 threat as of right now, which is a slight risk, which, level 2 threats can be pretty decent. That's to say if it stays a level 2 threat. A little hard to tell, but anyways. Teresa says, thank you. See for all you do. Bless you. God bless you. Well, thank you, Teresa. I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Golden says, is this coming to Nashville, Tennessee? So as of now, actually, it's funny you say that. We actually looked at Nashville a little bit ago. So one thing to know right now, I'm going to let you know you will probably see some storms soon. Yes. But the Storm Prediction Center as of now does not have you in the risk for severe weather. At the current moment, the states included in severe weather activity between now and Friday includes Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and Missouri. Tennessee, as of right now, is not in the severe risk area, but I will show you this. If we hop back to the models, One of the things we were actually looking at here a little bit ago. We'll bring up the instability, and you can see that there's going to be a pretty good amount of unstable air for a lot of a lot of the Midwest, a lot of the plains, even the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, Southeast, maybe even the Mid Atlantic. There is instability. There's a pretty unstable environment here. This is for 4 p.m. on Friday. If I was to grab a sounding up by Nashville. We talked that there's going to be a pretty good amount of moisture content too for this particular sounding. I mean, this is for Nashville on Friday. This looks like a decent little sounding for thunderstorm activity. Now, would it likely be anything severe or really strong? Probably not. I mean, maybe a strong to isolated severe can't be ruled out. But the reason I don't think it'd be anything too crazy is because looking at our wind column here, our winds are pretty weak. They're not super strong, especially our lower levels. You can see, I mean, our winds here are about 20, 25 knots between the surface and 5 kilometers, which that's not super fast for thunderstorms. And what that will mean is that, storms can't get as organized, for severe activity. So I don't see much of severity here. I mean, once again, maybe an isolated severe storm can't be ruled out in this particular sounding, but remember, this is also one model run too. Bottom line though, I mean, you could see some storms. A lot of the areas here could potentially see some storms. We'll have to see. Anyways, we're gonna get some heavy flooding rain soon. Let me look. I can actually pull it up for you. Here, let's bring up our flooding outlook here from the Weather Prediction Center. So day 1, we don't have anything here for today. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, so day 3 will be on Tuesday. Tuesday we have a little bit of a threat for Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. Just a little level 1 marginal risk here. Isolated flooding will be possible. Going into day 4 for Wednesday, we do have a little threat here in the green. And then, of course, we have Thursday, another level 1 threat here. So, yeah, I mean, some areas could see maybe some flooding potential. But yeah, so we'll watch it. But, yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind as well. Jacob says, do I do videos often? I do a lot of live streams often. Specifically for like these type of weather events and stuff. Videos I do make from time to time. I don't make that many videos per se, but a lot of I do mostly streams, just like update streams like we're doing right now, and coverage streams, which we do during severe weather events and stuff like that. Not just like severe thunderstorms, but also like hurricanes and winter weather and stuff like that. I cover as well. But yeah, I mean, we're usually fairly active on here. A lot of it just depends on what's going on at the time being, like I said, because now we actually have something that's coming up pretty soon. You're probably going to be seeing me a lot more within the next couple of days. So absolutely. And like I said, guys, if you are new to the channel, I'm not going to make you do this, but just consider subscribing. That way you guys can stay up to date with the weather. I'll keep you guys up to date with everything that's going on here, and we'll be having a lot of discussions about the weather and stuff like that, and we'll keep you guys in the loop with everything. But like I mentioned, I mean, this is it seems like a decent little event here. This is actually the Euro model we're looking at now. We're looking at the instability, the amount of unstable air that's in the environment, essentially. In which we can see that here for Wednesday, Wednesday is that first day of severe weather. We actually have a pretty good amount of instability, for a lot of Texas, bits of Oklahoma, some of that unstable air even working its way into the Ohio Valley for Wednesday, which, if I grab a sounding in, let's just say West Kentucky for Wednesday, I mean, this environment wouldn't likely produce anything severe, but I wouldn't rule out maybe a isolated storm or two. But yeah, of course, for Wednesday, in the risk area out there by like the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if I grab another sounding, this one looks a little bit better. But the main difference, like I was talking about between Wednesday and Friday's threat, is wind shear. How strong the winds are throughout the atmosphere. And you can see for this particular sounding, for the Dallas-Fort Worth area here on Wednesday, if we look at the lower level winds here, so between the surface and about 5 kilometers, the winds peak out at about 25 knots, which is about 30 miles an hour, which might seem fast, which it is for the surface, but this is 5 kilometers up, which that high, usually the winds would be a little bit stronger. But why wind shear matters so much, why these winds matter so much is organization and, getting these storms organized. The strong winds help separate your updrafts from your downdrafts. The intake, the warm air coming in, shooting up into the cooler environment, cooling down, condensing, stuff like that. And then the cold air that's sinking back down, and it keeps those two separated. Because if you start ingesting cold air into your updraft, it'll kill your storm, because you want the rising air to be warmer than the environment around it, to continue convection. So, but basically the wind shear is very important for not just separating your updrafts from downdrafts, but also for storm modes, different types of severe weather. Like we mentioned, the lower atmosphere, very important for tornadoes. Tornadoes are, like we mentioned, relatively surface phenomenons, lower levels. And the aggressive change in wind direction and the increase in wind speed as we go up in altitude is important for tornadoes. Anyways, Jacob says, you're 9 years old and been doing weather for 4 years. Oh, wow. Keep at it. Let's see. SLDS says it's going to be 80 in Pennsylvania this week. Wow. That's actually pretty warm. It was actually 80 something here in Florida, but it's Florida. Anyways, Found by Chit says, so what is happening in northwest Missouri? Right now, it's still just raining. I guess you're talking right now or later. Well, northwest Missouri, I'm just going to say it. Northwest Missouri on Friday, keep an eye out there for it. But if you're talking about right now, I can pull up the MRMS radar here. Let's pull up our current radar at the moment, just to kind of see what we're dealing with. It looks like we have a little bit of storm activity going on, a little bit of rain going on for Missouri, Illinois, and such. But if you're talking about Friday's risk here, then yeah. Okay, you said later. So yeah, Friday we do have this risk for severe weather, which includes a lot of central, northwestern, northern Missouri here. I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of the radar for a minute. Yeah, so this is Friday's risk, and you can see, we have a lot of Missouri included in the risk. Kansas City area, all the way up towards Trenton, Missouri, Jefferson City area, Springfield, Joplin, all these regions are in the risk here for, what is it, Friday. And St. Louis, as of now, is not in that 15% risk area, but St. Louis isn't far from it. I would definitely keep it out there for, even the surrounding areas, not just the areas that are in, to have the risk, the areas around it too should monitor it as well. Anyways, Holly says, what level would I say would Dallas area is? See, I live in Allen, Texas. Gotcha. So if you're talking about the convective outlook scale, that goes from level 1 to level 5, marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, high. As of right now, it's equivalent to a level 2, slight risk, given that it is a 15% risk here. Now, if you're wondering if the risk would be upgraded by then, it's hard to say. It's too early to tell. We need to get more model data in before we really determine that and stuff. But let me pull up your area, and I'll show you where you are in relation to the risk here. So here's Wednesday's threat actually, and you can see you're in the 15% risk here for Wednesday. Thursday, as of right now, there's no active severe weather risk, but then you go into Friday. Friday, we also do have a 15% risk here for severe weather. So Wednesday, Friday, keep an eye out there for it. But as of now, both the days are equivalent to a slight risk, a level 2 threat here. So we'll see. But for me to, if you're wanting to know my opinion on like what specific SPC level it'll be, I can't really tell you that accurately right now. I need to see more information, more data and stuff. So we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. But anyways, guys, well, if y'all have any questions or any zip code forecasts or anything like that you want me to look at, do not hesitate. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Here, let me get rid of that there. But yeah, just let me know if y'all have any questions. And like I said, we're here for y'all. We'll keep you guys in the loop. Keep you guys in the loop here. But it's that time of the year again. We're finally back at it for some storm activity. And I mean, it looks pretty decent. It does. And one of the things that I really wanted to point out again with you guys is just the amount of moisture that's coming in here. You can kind of see where we're at right now. One thing I want you guys to pay attention to is all of this moisture is just being drawn up from down south here. As we advance down in time, you can see all this moisture just creeping into the states. Which is good, for storms and such. And you can see here for Friday, we have a lot of instability at play. Or sorry, a lot of moisture. My bad. A lot of moisture at play. Dew points in the in the 60s, which is good for storms. The dew points really supply the moisture for these for these storms here. So, so it's done in So it's done tonight, Northwest Missouri. For the most part, yeah, a lot of it's moving east away from you. Found by Chance says, oh, literally that. My bad. Holly says, thank you. You're very welcome. Jacob says, when will the next live be? I have no idea. It'll probably be sometime tomorrow afternoon. I'll probably do 2-part updates tomorrow since, we have an active event coming up. I'm going to try to stream 2 times a day, one in the afternoon for an update, one in the evening. Because not everybody can make it in the afternoon, which I get because of work and stuff like that. And then we'll do another one in the evening, so if you missed it. Plus, by the evening, we'll have more data, more model runs, essentially. So, yeah, so probably tomorrow afternoon. I don't have a specific time. I hate making commitments to time because, knowing me, I always can't fulfill them. So, it's just better if I just say sometime in the afternoon. And that's why it's important to keep notifications on, too. That way, if we do go live, or when we go live, you'll get notified. Yeah. But anyways, if you are just now joining here, first of all, welcome. So just know that we have not 1 but 2 days, or technically 3 days worth of severe weather coming up. If we hop back over here, the main days is going to be Wednesday and Friday of this upcoming week. So we do have a little bit of a threat for Tuesday. It's just a little level 1 marginal risk here for portions of Kansas, including the Topeka, Wichita area, a little bit of northern Oklahoma, potential for, a little bit of isolated severe weather, or isolated severe storms, which pretty low threat for Tuesday. But then we go into Wednesday, then we kick it up a little bit of a notch here. Which we do have that 15% risk here for Wednesday, which includes the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Abilene, Texas, Wichita Falls, Texas, going up into Oklahoma out there by Pauls Valley, Hugo area, just shy of Tulsa, just slightly south of Tulsa. Then we have, western Arkansas on the risk here for Wednesday as well, for like Fayetteville, Fort Smith, Nashville, Russellville. These areas are included for Wednesday. Now, for Thursday, as of now, we don't have any risk at all for Thursdays, for Thursday in general. Then we go into Friday, which, in my opinion, is likely going to be the bigger of the days because it's going to have more wind shear. There's going to be a lot more stronger winds throughout the atmosphere, getting these storms really organized, in which, a lot of the same areas are included for Wednesday as they are for Friday. So Friday, we also have the Dallas-Fort Worth included, Wichita Falls, those areas as well as central eastern Oklahoma. So more of Oklahoma is included in Friday's threat. So, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Lawton, these areas are going to be in the risk here for Friday. Northwestern Arkansas, including Fort Smith, Bentonville area, Huntsville area, in the risk here for Friday. Eastern Kansas, just east of Wichita, south of Topeka, but it does include like Yates Center, let's see here, Mountain City area, Coffeyville, Pittsburgh area here in eastern Kansas. And then you got Missouri, which includes Joplin, Springfield, Kansas City, and the risk here as well, going all the way up towards like Trenton, Missouri as of right now. So that's for Friday, in which, like I said, I think Friday is going to be the bigger of the days here. We have a good amount of instability, or a relatively good unstable environment. We have a lot of fuel, a good amount of moisture content. A lot of moisture will be in the area. So check that. Check the instability. Strong wind shear, strong lower level winds will contribute to not only organized severe weather, but maybe even tornadic activity, which we're looking into. And then, of course, lift, which is, getting the warm air off the ground into the cooler environment above. We're kind of on a front here. So, we're going to have a reliable source of lift to get these storms in the air, or to get them going, basically. Jacob said just subscribe. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate it, dude. I really appreciate it. Anyways. Jacob says, do I think it'll get bigger? So it's certainly possible that it could. But do we know where right now if it would? No. And the reason is because, we kind of need more model data. We need to, basically right now we're forecasting this off of what we know. Something could easily come up between now and the event that could make the risk expand. Not to mention there could be some changes in the models and stuff like that. So, right now these are the areas that are at risk. But will the risk area likely move around between now and the event? Yeah, more than likely it will. But we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. And, honestly, I think there is a decent chance of this expanding in general, because of, just the sheer amount of instability and stuff that's in the environment. Not necessarily the values of instability, but the areas that the unstable air includes. If I bring back up our instability here, you can see that, this is for Friday. We do have a decent amount of unstable air. You can see some of the most of it's over, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, where some of the risk area is. But, you even got portions of like the South that there's a little bit of instability, even up by the Ohio Valley. Maybe enough instability for some localized storms, maybe in some cases will not be severe, or certainly in some cases will not be severe, but, could just be a little bit of a thunderstorm threat, for some of these other people. But for this sounding I just grabbed, I actually do see a little bit of a tornado concern, given that lower level veering winds. You can see the photograph here, a little bit of arch here. So, we'll see. It's very possible. Very possible. Let me grab another sounding up here in Missouri. Yeah, so, the environment looks a little different everywhere we look, which is, to be expected. But just generally speaking, it looks like, we're going to have likely quite a bit of thunderstorm activity going on Friday, not just for the risk area, but also outside of the risk area as well. So, Squashy says it's going to be an active tornado season. I think it could. Yeah, we'll definitely be ready for it, though. I'll be ready to tackle this season like we have the last several seasons. No, I'm going to be locked in this season, y'all. We're going to be really locked in. We're going to make sure that y'all are, staying up to date and stuff like that with all the craziness. And then, of course, we got the hurricane season to follow, and then all that. This time of the year, it's kind of quiet. Wintertime is pretty quiet for the most part. I mean, we do have winter storms and stuff like that, but action really comes in spring and, of course, summer with tropics and stuff. Which, we'll cover that too. We'll cover all of that stuff for you guys. So we'll just keep you guys in the loop with everything. But guys, like I said, if y'all have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I'll be more than happy to help y'all. So if you are just tuning in, we've been mentioning that we have really 2 big days of potential severe weather. The first day is this upcoming Wednesday, so this Wednesday, and then the other threat's on Friday. Friday includes more areas, also seems to be the bigger of the days. For severe weather, it seems a little bit more significant, potentially, just given the environmental conditions that could be at play here. Friday seems like the bigger day. So this is the threat here for Wednesday. So the yellow areas include where we could see severe weather. So this includes like northern Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, Oklahoma, out there by areas like Ardmore, Hugo, Pauls Valley, Fort Smith over here by Arkansas, western Arkansas. So, we got to watch out for these regions here on Wednesday. Then, of course, like I said, we have Friday, which includes a lot of the same areas, actually, bits of Texas, Oklahoma, but also includes areas of Missouri and Kansas for Friday. So Thursday, as of right now, there is no risk as of yet. So the risk areas are for Wednesday and Friday as of now, which we'll keep an eye out. What's up, Jonathan? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. But anyways, guys, if you are new to the channel, consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. It'll be greatly appreciated. Like I said, y'all, if you guys have any questions, just please do not hesitate to ask. We're here to help. We're here to keep you guys up to date with everything, and we'll be here. Now, the timing and stuff like that for this event is still a little bit far out. Given that we're in the long range here, and it'll be a lot better whenever we have the HRRR and the RRFS and stuff like that available. But I mean, even looking at this here for for Friday, this is the GFS on Friday. You can kind of see how we do have maybe a bit of a line developing here. It just kind of seems like multiple days worth of strong to severe storms here. So, I'm good, Haley. Thanks for asking. Jacob says, will next week be big for several storms? Yeah, there will likely be several strong to severe storms, of course. And like I said, it's not just Wednesday or Friday. It's both. Wednesday, Friday. We'll even see about Thursday, in between, because there will be instability available for some of these areas, even for Thursday and such. But the main days right now are Wednesday and Friday. So we'll see. And there's a lot of people that really could. Actually, let's hop back. There's a lot of people that really even could see just thunderstorms in general. Not just severe thunderstorm activity, but even just thunderstorms. If we look at the moisture content once again, like we were talking about earlier, the dew points here on the surface. We have a really good amount of moisture. This is right here for Friday evening. The blue here showing our dew points in the 60s, which is good for storms. And you can kind of see here that we do have a lot of good moisture. Leading up into, a lot of the Central Plains, a lot of the Midwest, the Southeast, even portions of like the lower Mid-Atlantic here, like North Carolina, possibly. These areas hold really good moisture, which is needed for storms. So, that's in place. And then, of course, if we look at the actual instability itself, just how unstable the environment is. If we look at that, you can see that there's a lot of unstable air that goes up, well into the country. The main risk is, of course, for a lot of these areas here, roughly. But there is other areas that do have some instability, which could lead to some storms. So the storm threat covers a much larger area than the severe weather threat. The severe weather threat's obviously the main area we need to focus on, but just don't be surprised if we do get some thunderstorms out by the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Southeast. The way it looks here, I mean, we're going to have a pretty good amount of instability, just building into the country for not just 1 or 2 days, but several days. So, I mean, yeah, we'll definitely, I think it'll be a pretty active week for strong to severe storms here. It'll definitely be an active week. And then, like we were mentioning here for Friday, looking at our wind shear here, this is specifically our lower level winds. If we go to Wednesday here and all, Wednesday, the lower level winds aren't really as significant as Friday. So this is 7 p.m. on Wednesday. You can see we have a good amount of instability here. Our lower level winds at some spots could break 30 knots or so, which decent. But then you go to Friday. You see how much stronger and how much more lower level winds we have. That lower level jet is really important. Really playing a role for Friday. That's really why Friday to me stands out more, is because stronger wind shear, and stuff like that. For sure. Let's see. Holly said I don't like the looks of where the dry line is setting up at. What is it, over your area or something? Yeah, we'll definitely have to see what happens. What really separates those air masses there. I mean, you can kind of see where it would be in place. Where we'd have that. It's definitely you know what? Let's actually look at something here. I do want to pull back up our dew points. We could really see it if we look at our dew points here. Just the main separation between those air masses. I mean, you can see, for example, you have like the Panhandle of Texas. Dew points are really low. In the single digits and teens. And then you got like Eastern Texas, like the dew points are in the 60s, which, I mean, as is 60-degree dew points is good for, supplying moisture to these storms. Jonathan says, remember, there's new outlooks for severe weather starting on Tuesday. Does it start Tuesday? That's going to be interesting. They're completely overhauling the, just the SPC outlooks and stuff. So that's interesting. I think they're keeping the convective outlook, marginal, slight, enhanced, or marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, high, but they're adding like tier lists, kind of like a level 1. It's weird. I'm gonna have to kind of learn the whole new system they're gonna do. I've been so used to the system that we have in effect right now. It's gonna be weird adjusting to their new system. So don't be surprised if it takes me a minute to kind of get used to it. Anyways, Holly says, like literally on top of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Yeah, I mean, the main one, according to the, it's mostly west of Dallas-Fort Worth area, according to the GFS here. But I mean, yeah, you're well within the warm sector. I mean, you're going to be in the environment where, we are going to have some potential severe weather, of course. But anyways, like I said, y'all, we'll keep you guys in the loop here. We'll keep y'all up to date with everything that's going on here. So here's Wednesday's threat, once again, including northern Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, Abilene, Wichita Falls, including Oklahoma as well, up by Ardmore, Hugo. And then, of course, we go towards Fort Smith and stuff like that as well for Wednesday. Then we have Friday, which includes a lot of those same areas for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, going up through Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, Norman, Tulsa, Lawton as well. Fort Smith once again. Then it includes eastern Kansas, out there south of Topeka, east of Wichita, and of course Missouri, which a lot of Missouri is actually in the risk here for Friday. Of course we have the Joplin, Missouri area. We have Kansas City. We have Jefferson City area, Springfield. These areas are in the risk here for Friday. St. Louis, as of now, like I said, is not currently in the official outlook here from the SPC, but give or take, whenever we do actually approach Friday, I personally think that there could be potential severe weather activity even out there by St. Louis, which we'll have to see. I mean, just given the environment and stuff like that, like we've been looking at, it just seems like, it seems like that could be a real possibility, but we'll have to see. I'm going to grab a sounding out here by St. Louis. This is for Friday evening here. A little bit of a capping inversion here, but, I really want to see what the short range models suggest when we get to the point of it. Remember, this is Friday. This is 5 days out. Global models like GFS, Euro, a little iffy on the specifics for, these long, basically far out events here. So we'll have to really see, but you can see the most of the instability from the GFS in this case is really across, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. If we compare this with the Euro, it's obviously good to compare models. They're not really that far off. I mean, you can even see that some of the instability goes all the way up towards like Minnesota even. Really good moisture advection here. So, yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of rich moisture coming in from the Gulf and, just really kind of shooting up into the country. You're going to notice, first of all, the temperatures here as well. Friday is going to be a warm day for a lot of you guys. It's going to be a warm day on Friday. And maybe even a little muggy in some spots. Because, of the moisture content that we're going to start to see come through. So we'll keep you guys in a loop here. I'm probably gonna head off here now. It's getting a little bit late here, but if you guys have any final questions or anything like that before I roll off here, go ahead and throw them down in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them for you all. But yeah, I think I'm probably gonna call it a stream here in a minute for now. But we'll touch back up tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon we'll be back live for you guys. Not sure exactly what time, but sometime tomorrow afternoon, and then tomorrow evening we'll stream again. So we'll do 2 streams tomorrow: an afternoon update, an evening update. For the evening update, so the people who weren't able to make the afternoon update can join. Plus, like I said, then we'll have a little bit more model data and stuff like that. So, but anyways. Found by Chance says, thanks. Of course, you are very welcome, my friend. I'm glad to help you guys out. And if you guys could, maybe consider subscribing. I'm not going to make you do it or anything like that. But if you guys could consider it, that way, I can at least do my best to help you guys out and staying severe weather aware. Or that's a new one. Staying weather aware, just in general. It would be greatly appreciated. And if y'all do enjoy this, maybe leave a like as well on your way out. It'll be much appreciated. But yeah, like I said, just if y'all have any final questions before I call it a stream here, go ahead and throw it down in the chat. Jacob says, how bad will it be in Dover, Arkansas? So yeah, we look there a little bit ago. So from what I remember, yeah, so Dover is not in the severe weather threat on Friday. Now, you're right within the proximity of the severe weather risk, definitely need to keep an eye on this region as well. Given the environment here, I do think that we could have, potentially a couple strong to potentially severe storms here. Yes. Does it mean you'll 100% see a severe storm? No. But, keep an eye on the environment. This is Friday we're talking about. This is still 5 days out. So there still is a lot of time between now and the event to start. So a lot of changes could still be made. But anyways, Bob says, "See, I'm late. What's coming to St. Louis, Missouri?" So St. Louis, right now, here if we hop over here, actually we're already on here. St. Louis area for Friday, you can see we do have the 15% risk is west of St. Louis. However, we were actually talking about this a little bit ago. St. Louis could still even see maybe a couple storms for Friday. So some storms can't be ruled out, but severe weather we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. But you're right now outside of the risk area here from the Storm Prediction Center, but you're not absurdly far away from it though. So we'll we'll definitely keep an eye on it and stuff like that. Let's see here. Brandy, thank you so much for the $5 Cash App donation, my friend. Saying, please let me know about St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, so St. Louis, bottom line, should keep an eye out there for the, for the event. Right now, from the Storm Prediction Center, we're not in that risk area as of yet. But if I do hop to models and stuff like that, we're looking at the Euro model here, particularly right now. This is 7 a.m. I do want to move a little bit further, of course. Yeah, the environment doesn't look very good at that early morning, big capping inversion. So Euro doesn't show that crazy of an environment here, particularly. But if we look at the GFS, it's good to compare models. GFS I think is a little bit more aggressive. A little bit more instability, but also a little bit more of a capping inversion there too. So it's hard to say. It really is. But bottom line, I would keep an eye out there for St. Louis area, in that risk area. But anyways, let's see here. Found by Chance coming in with a $5 donation on Venmo. You guys are awesome. Thank you all, seriously, for the kind love and support. I really appreciate you guys. Y'all don't have to do that. Thank you. Found by Chance said, thanks with the exclamation point. You are very welcome, my friend. Thank you. Seriously. That's really, really much appreciated, my friend. So thank you. Brandy, you as well. Thank you guys so much for the Cash App and Venmo donations. I appreciate y'all. It goes a long way. It really helps us out a ton. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who has donated to us. It's not necessary. You guys do not have to donate or anything, but it's greatly appreciated, and it really helps us out. Helps keep us, on our feet, and helps keep everything rolling here. So once again, thank you. Just a little special thanks to our supporters, which is greatly appreciated. Let's see here. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, of course, you're very welcome. And like I said, I'll be live again tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening, so we'll be here to give you guys a lot of updates here. Of course, like I said, we're still 3 to 5 days away from this event. 3 days from the first day of the big day, or the first big day, then 5 days from the biggest day, in my opinion. So we'll keep you guys in the loop here. We'll keep you guys up to date and stuff. But once again, everybody, going once, going twice. If there's any other questions you guys have, throw it down in the chat. I'll be there to answer it for you guys. And if not, if you guys are going to head out, once again, thank you all for joining. If you guys could, maybe consider subscribing, maybe leaving a like. It'll be much appreciated. And but yeah, like I said, just if y'all need anything, I'm here for you. Also, we have our Discord down in the description too. So if any of you guys are on Discord, it is in the description. You guys can join. We usually chat about weather and stuff like that every once in a while. So if you do want to join, that, it is in the description. Let's see here. Live for Your Dice says, how accurate are the models if it's 5 days out? It depends on the event. Sometimes you have a really big difference in the models. In this case particularly, so believe it or not, the models are not that far apart, like the Euro and the GFS. I mean, they agree on the system's existence. Now down to the fine details, yes, there's going to be differences. There's always going to be differences. Even in the short range between some of the best models, there's always going to be differences. But for this particular event, it's not too crazy, because a lot of the models do agree on what's going to happen with the system. A lot of moisture coming up from the south, a lot of that moisture advection, good amount of instability because of lapse rates and moisture content, stuff like that. Strong wind shear, especially Friday. Friday there's really strong winds, throughout the atmosphere, wind shear. It's just pretty decent. Pretty decent amount of agreement here between these long range models for now, but of course you're going to have your differences and stuff. So anyways, but all right, everybody, going once, going twice. Gonna roll off here for tonight, y'all. It's getting a little bit late. But yeah, we'll touch up you guys once again tomorrow afternoon. Somewhere I'd say between 12 and 2 p.m. more than likely. Somewhere right around in there. It could be a little later, it could be a little bit before. Who knows? It's hard telling with me. I have a weird schedule that I suck at making deadlines. Essentially, I'm not gonna lie with y'all. So it'll be sometime. That's why I don't give a specific time. So it'll be sometime tomorrow afternoon, and then another one following in the evening sometime, probably between 8 and 10 p.m. or so. But anyways, y'all. Well, thank you all so much for watching and for stopping by. Just appreciate you guys. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, leaving a like. It'd be much appreciated. But yeah, y'all just stay weather aware, and we'll catch y'all in the next one. All right, everybody. Thank y'all for joining. See y'all later on. Peace out, my friends. Catch y'all in the next one.